Hi. Hello. It's a video, like a video, like it's just you and me video. Yeah, so obviously you guys can see Steelers stuff has happened, so we're going to talk about it, like always. Mind the mic. This is usually what I use to film like skits and self-tapes and stuff like that. But all my mics are packed up right now in my luggage because I'm flying back to Salt Lake tomorrow. So yes, mics are packed up, which means IRL podcast with the boys. So yeah, that's why I'm holding this unfortunately shaped microphone this close to my mouth. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the recent offseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you're new here, which there are quite a few of you, I'll address that towards the end of the video. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and usually when we have like updates, like anytime games end or big news happens within the organization, I try to talk about it from the perspective of a pretty diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So yeah, the draft ended yesterday for me, like 2 days ago for you guys, whenever you're watching this and this comes out. And I'm going to talk about it because not only the draft, but the offseason in general for the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion, has not only been one of the best out of all NFL teams this offseason, it's been one of the best offseasons I've remembered as a Steelers fan in my 23 years on this planet and like 17 years of actually remembering Steelers football. So, I mean, obviously, I've talked about Justin Fields, Russell Wilson. Those are like the basic, like everyone knows about those ones. So I'm only going to be really addressing the draft picks from this point on. And going into the draft, I was like, first 2 rounds, corner and some type of offensive line. And the first round comes, and what do you know? Every great corner is still available. They're all falling. And I'm like, holy crap. We're going to get Quinyon Mitchell. We're going to get Cooper DeJean. We're like, I was ecstatic. And then we took my boy Troy. And then I was like, you know what? Troy was not supposed to be here at 20. He's going to, it's so hard to do this without like shitting on a person because I've actually been fortunate enough to work with professional athletes and you never know who you're going to run into. So I don't want to shit on people's jobs, but let's just say Dan Moore is a good, like anytime I'm shitting on, like not shitting on, but like talking negatively about a person or a player, it's about their performance, not as them as a person. So Dan Moore, I'm sure he's a great guy, but he has been a lackluster left tackle for us, except for when he's playing Myles Garrett. Then he's a god. But we drafted Troy to be essentially Dan Moore's replacement, which I could not be more ecstatic about. And then, so I was like, all right, cornerback and offensive line. I was like, offensive line's good. Now let's go corner in the second round. And Cooper DeJean is still falling. And I was like, are we going to trade up and draft him? And Pittsburgh did another I love Omar Khan as our GM. He didn't trade a damn thing. And he waits and we got Zach Frazier in the second round. Again, Zach Frazier was a guy that was mocked in so many mocks go at the end of the first. And some people even had him as the number 1 center in this draft. I think Zach has the highest ceiling. But the reason like everyone had like JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson above him is because it's a safer floor in my opinion. But we literally addressed these 2 positions were positions that we did not basically have. And we literally do not have a center on our roster. And left tackle, we've been needing to address for the past 5 years. So there you go. It's like, all right, cool. First 2 picks. Those are both should be day 1 starters after last season. I don't know if they will. I'm really hoping that they see that Joey and Broderick. I was pining for it from week 2. I was like, just play him. So I'm really hoping come week 1, both Troy and Zach are starting. So yeah, all right, cool. We have 2 day 1 starters. And then they turn around and take a wide receiver in the 3rd round. And I was like, damn. Not because of the player, but because I was kind of hoping we were going to be in the market because there were rumors that we were now in the market for Terry McLaurin as well as Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. And I was like, whoo! But us drafting wide receiver in the 3rd round shows me that we are not going to be going after any. What that tells me is the asking price was too heavy for any star receivers, and Omar Khan is not going to put a fleece on his track record. So, and well, come on, what's Pittsburgh's like track record when it comes to drafting wide receivers. I'm not even just talking like in general. I'm talking like third round and second round wide receivers. Aside from like Chase Claypool, we really haven't had a miss. Yeah, Martavis Bryant faded out, but he was a phenomenal talent. He just couldn't stay on the field due to horribly legislated NFL rules. So wide receiver, I'm like, all right, cool. We still need a corner though. And then they go and they take a guard out of our South Dakota State. And again, I was like, why is this? But then it made sense. We have James Daniels as well as Herbig on the last years of their contract. So it's one of those situations where, okay, well, if one of them doesn't want to come back, we're going to have to fill that slot somehow. And this is a situation where his name is slipping me. I'm so sorry. Listen, it's been a busy day, okay? I've been packing. I had to drive like an hour south. I didn't have to. I wanted to meet with a friend. But anyways, this guard was someone who apparently I didn't have much tape on him, but the boy Parker, shout out Parker, he and also a lot of after the draft had ended, I went and I was really interested, and I don't look at what people say after the player gets drafted because then there's bias. Like, oh, this guy was totally going to be great. I like to watch before or read what people were saying before, and a lot of people had him going in the second round. Before I go any further, I just need to put some respect. Mason McCormick. Thank you. That was his name. And I didn't say the name, but Roman Wilson was the receiver we drafted. But Mason McCormick in the fourth round. Yeah, a lot of people had Mason going in like the late second round. And so to get him that late, I really like it. And it's definitely like a depth piece. If anything, it's like, all right, if he can beat out like Isaac Seumalo or James Daniels, then great. But this is something that they're playing for the long run. And I also think Pittsburgh's like, please don't beat out Isaac Seumalo or James Daniels for paying them so much money. And also both Isaac and James have been really good. So anyways, I'm like, all right, it's a depth piece. I kind of get where we're going. When are we going to go corner though? And then I totally skipped over our other third round pick, but then in the third round, we go get one of the funnest, in my opinion, if he can stay healthy and actually like plays up to his potential, one of the funnest prospects in this draft, and Peyton Wilson, because homeboy doesn't have an ACL, so he can't tear that. But his speed really is like Ryan Shazier like, and the fact that his comp, I'm not saying he's gonna be Luke Kuechly, but his comp is Luke Kuechly, and even if he's half of that, Pittsburgh can use that because Pittsburgh runs a 3-4 defense, which essentially means, if you're not familiar, they like to have two linebackers at all times. You have your Mike, and then you have your other middle linebacker. And obviously, it's been very obvious that Patrick Queen is going to be our Mike. And going into the offseason, I was like, okay, Patrick Queen and Cole Holcomb coming off of his injury. Because Cole Holcomb, a lot of people don't remember this because he went out with injury so early into the season. He was phenomenal. Cole Holcomb was actually phenomenal. But I think that they drafted Peyton Wilson because, one, development, you have prospect, and Cole Holcomb's also on the last year of his contract. But two, if Cole is not what his former self was because of his injury, then that's going to be a problem. And this is a situation where you can just sub in Peyton and get him some reps. I do think Peyton will probably get a good like 50-50 split with Cole Holcomb early into the season, just to like ease Cole back into the game after his injury. And then I do think, like, based on whatever they see on the field, either Peyton will get essentially like the nod or they'll give it back to Cole. But Peyton will be one of the funnest like prospects to really watch and see if he can grow into his potential. Because again, if his potential is Luke Kuechly, amazing. I have Luke Kuechly and Patrick Queen as my middle linebackers on my football team. And then we did draft Ryan Watts out of Texas and Logan Lee out of, I want to say Iowa. I can't remember. I think it's Iowa. I'm pretty sure Logan Lee's out of Iowa. Logan Lee, that one for me is like, they're prepping for Cam, this to be his last year. And this is like, you're basically throwing shots in the dark. You're just throwing a dart at a dartboard and hoping it hits. And so, if his potential is great and, he can sit behind, because we also have Keanu Benton, who's going to essentially 1,000% fill in. And we also have Larry Ogunjobi on a contract here. So this is a situation where it's like, again, they're planning for the future. I get it. End of the fourth, fifth and sixth and seventh round picks. Those are just, like I said, darts at a board, hoping you hit on someone. And then corner out of Texas is okay. Am I bummed we didn't address corner? Yes. But the more I think about it, again, I'm not going to ever question Omar Khan until he actually gives me a reason to do so. And this isn't me glazing. This is me looking at his track record evaluating it and going, okay, I'm going to trust this man. This is the same dude who flipped Kenny Pickett for Peyton Wilson. Again, if he's even half of Luke Kuechly, then you're flipping Kenny Pickett for half of Luke Kuechly. He's the same guy that flipped Chase Claypool for Joey Porter Jr. and Justin Fields. So I'm gonna trust the process when it comes to Omar Khan. But the reason I think Pittsburgh did not draft a cornerback is this: last year we took Corey Trice in the 7th, and going into mini camps and OTAs, you would have thought we took Corey Trice with our 2nd pick in the draft because of how everyone was talking about him. His potential is essentially off the charts, and a lot of people were like, he is a Joey Porter Jr. 2.0. Like, they're both really big corners with great speed and great ball skills. Pause. And a lot of people were really, really excited for that. And I think that was one of the reasons why last year they didn't address any corner position either, because, yeah, they knew that they had Levi Wallace and then they brought in Patrick Peterson. But I think bringing in Patrick Peterson was really to be like, we're bringing in one of the greatest cornerbacks of the 2010s to mentor these 2 young guys because we see a lot in them. And so going back to Corey Trice, he's coming back this year. And I think what Pittsburgh is doing is they're going to give him a fair shot, because this is kind of how Pittsburgh's always worked, is that you don't lose your job to injury. That's why Dan Moore was never replaced by Broderick Jones when Broderick Jones was filling in for him, and Broderick Jones was doing a very good job. I don't necessarily agree with that scenario because of how much better Broderick was, but I respect the fact that you're like, I'm not going to let injury be the reason you lose your job. You're going to lose your job because of however it is you are or aren't performing. So Pittsburgh giving Corey Trice an opportunity to start. Well, Connor, are they going to really trot out a 7th round pick to be your cornerback too? No, I think that there is one more move that Omar Khan is going to make. Well, a couple more moves, which we'll talk about. But I think Omar Khan is really going to aim for either Xavier Howard or Stephon Gilmore to bring them in on a 1-year contract deal where they can play as the cornerback too, to complement Joey, while also mentoring. What am I, Australian? What was that? To also mentor Joey and Corey, and then that way, if Corey isn't the product you were hoping he would be, then you can address corner next year. Because essentially, think about next year's draft already. We will not draft offensive line. We maybe might draft like a defensive tackle. But other than that, we just addressed middle linebacker. We have edge set up for at least the next 5 years. And we have safety set up with Minka. They might take like another safety, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But it really is secondary is going to be our emphasis next year in the draft. So I think that's what they're planning for, essentially. And they're really hoping that, hey, maybe Corey is exactly what we wanted to, and we can address whatever else position with that 1st-round pick next year. So that's that. That's, again, I'm a little bummed because like there were really good cornerback prospects in this draft. Now, again, that can be, you can say otherwise because they were all falling, and it's like when one player falls, okay, maybe everyone missed. But when multiple players are falling, it seems like, okay, maybe there's a trend going on here. But I'm not going to question it. Philly really got both of the best corner prospects in this draft, which is crazy. If they both hit, that's insane. Good for Philly. But other things that I think Pittsburgh's going to do that I was like, I'll talk about in a little bit. I think aside from trying to bring in a veteran and accomplished corner like Xavier Howard or Stephon Gilmore, and again, I'm not saying that if they bring them in that they're both going to be like all pro again or Pro Bowl level. No, they will probably perform like an aging cornerback too. I think that's what I'm expecting, and as well as the rest of the team. And it's there for leadership mentoring. That's why. But other thing that I think they're going to do, I really do think that they're going to go hard after Justin Simmons, the safety, which I know we just brought in Deshaun Elliott. But here's the thing. Deshaun Elliott can be a nickelback, which I think is perfect. Because if you think about how our secondary is setting up right now, if you have Justin Simmons and Minka in the back as your safeties, and then you bring, because again, we're basically rolling out Corey Trice. If we sign a free agent corner, Joey Porter Jr. Our roster is very barren right now at corner. So I think that they also signed Deshaun Elliott as a case of like, okay, if we don't get another safety or corner in the draft, then you can fill in for corner. But if we do, then you can also fill in for corner. And so I think taking Justin Simmons, you have your safeties down pat. You're great there. You can move Deshaun Elliott to like a slot position or just a nickel or dime corner, and that fills in perfectly as well because you're not wasting that signing. And I think I think I think the only reason they haven't done it yet, one, is because they want to see how the draft fell, because once the draft falls, you do as a team kind of have more power in that situation when it comes to signing players, because teams have just addressed their needs. So teams that were safety needy might have drafted a safety in hopes to, you know, develop that safety and become the safety of that franchise. And so that kind of lessens the value and the negotiating power that a player like Justin Simmons would have. So I think Pittsburgh, because there was reports that Pittsburgh was talking with him, but his contract expectations were a little too high for Pittsburgh. So I think now the draft is all said and done, and there is mutual interest, I would be surprised if Justin Simmons does sign with Pittsburgh. And I think, here's the thing, Pittsburgh. If you sign Justin Simmons and a veteran, accomplished corner, arguably you've had the best offseason in the entire NFL. I think that's pretty fair to say. So you need to address this season like it's a Super Bowl year. Because though our team is getting younger, which is amazing and I love to see it, you're also putting a lot of older players on expiring contracts. And you don't want to waste A, that money, B, that age, and C, whatever is left in the tank. And also the impact they can have on the players around them. So that's just what I think. And especially, it's not like we have, you know, a young quarterback. I know we have Justin Fields, but I'm telling you, it's most likely than not going to be Russell Wilson come week 1. You see how much I mentioned tweeting and everything. Like, I would actually feel bad for Russell Wilson if Pittsburgh did him that dirty. And if you know me, I don't know when my mic gave out, but apparently it did. So you guys have had camera audio for however long. But yeah, if you know me, it's crazy. I'm not the biggest Russell Wilson fan. But I really hope that wasn't too long ago, because I've been talking for a minute. But so yeah, that's my recap of the draft for the most part. Again, these videos are never gonna be like too long. It's just, you know, between like 10 to 20 minutes of me talking about stuff. Anyway, and I gotta address this real quick as well. Hi, almost the next 400 of you that have come since the last video I've uploaded. We do a podcast here to go along with the skits that you guys have been seeing. I've been having so much fun with those skits. I try to film one every day. If not, I try to get like 3 to 4 out a week. You know, it takes probably about an hour of my time, but I absolutely love it. And I am, yes, okay, everyone thinks that I'm like trying to hide the fact that I'm really inspired by Benchwarmer brand. I'm not hiding that. But you know, like when people say, oh, this reminds me of Benchwarmer, I'm not gonna be like, no, it doesn't. Yeah, it totally does, because that's the guy who's him, Ryan George, Caleb City, Scooter Magruder, Tom Grossi, like all of those guys, they all really, like, I love their style, and they're the ones that really inspired the style that I'm using right now. And I'm hoping that through using that inspiration, I can kind of find my own style as well. So I love them as well. I'm not gonna stand here and act like, no, it doesn't, it's not dissimilar. It totally is. That's where I get my inspiration from. So, but the difference I will say is I do write all my own stuff. I'm not like stealing their scripts, you know. I mean, granted, we are talking in the similar industry, so we will probably touch on similar topics, but I'm not stealing their scripts, I promise. The second I have an idea for something, I write it down into my script, my Google Doc. So there's that. Thank you guys for all the support too. Probably one of the most successful ones as a channel that I've ever had. Like literally in the last 4 days, I think I've got like 50,000 to 60,000 views. Again, doesn't seem like a lot for me. That is a lot. But thank you guys. The audio is usually never this bad. I usually have a way better mic. Well, this is actually a really good mic. This is a very expensive microphone, but like a better podcasting mic. And I promise I have my shit together and I know what I'm doing. But I have to go finish packing, and then I have to go catch a flight tomorrow. But hey, podcast this week, IRL with the boy Zach. Keep an eye out for that. Thanks for all the love and support. You know how we end these. Man, it's... Alright guys, I'll see you guys later.